Welcome to Divorce Master Radio, where divorce is made simple. Got questions about divorce in California? We've got answers. Your host, Tim Blankenship, is a licensed legal document assistant specializing in California divorce, helping those representing themselves. And now, here's Tim.
Hi everybody, this is Tim Blankenship with Divorce661.com, and today on the podcast we have Brian Safdari with College Planning Experts. How you doing, Brian?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad we were able to finally get you on. I think we set this up a few months ago. So, with what I do, we have lots of clients that are going through, have kids getting of age that they need to get into college planning or get into college, and a lot of questions come up, so I really wanted to get you in so I could have this on wax, if you will, and be able to share this with folks who have these questions, and plus education for me as well.
Sure. Love to help all your clients and
absolutely
put them on the right track.
Exactly. So why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us what you do and
Sure.
give us an overview, basically.
Yeah, I'll start off with kind of the background, how I got into this, because it was very weird. And, they say things happen for a reason, but it was just like all these mistakes happen. And then I realized, putting all the picture together, that it was all for a purpose. I played soccer my whole life, and my ticket to go to college was playing really good soccer and using the soccer route or the athletic abilities to get into good schools and get grants and financial aid. My parents were really low income. When we first grew up, when we were little, we were probably in very low poverty. We were on welfare and government assistance, and I'm so grateful for the assistance our family had as I was growing up. And in middle school, high school, I played soccer, and I started playing really serious soccer. I started playing club soccer, and when I started using the soccer abilities, I went to high school, and then I went to Chatsworth High School in the Valley, and I ended up playing 4 years of varsity. I ended up making the Olympic Development Program, which is a preparation for the U.S. World Cup and the national team and all of that stuff. And that was my whole dream. My dad played pro soccer. I wanted to play pro soccer, and that's
so
all.
You're okay at soccer.
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, today that's not a different story. With running a family and a business, it's very hard.
Right.
But I ended up going to I got into a lot of good schools, like private universities, Duke, UCLA, top colleges that I wanted to go play at Division I. But getting in and affording it were two different things. So what happened was, when I injured myself in my senior year, unfortunately, coaches were not interested in me because they didn't know if I was going to get well. So they said, come to our school and you'll redshirt for a year, and if things go well, then we'll think about scholarships for the following year. But because my parents didn't make money, I couldn't take that route and pay for it. So they said, well, we can help you with this FAFSA and these financial aid forms. You fill it out and you might get grants and financial aid. So I said, okay, we're low income, we should get money. We submitted our financial aid form. My parents owned a small little business, and we listed the business net worth on the FAFSA. There was over 150 questions, and there's an 85 to 80% error rate on these financial aid forms on how families fill this out, including us making the mistake. Long story short, made mistakes on the forms, didn't know what I was doing. I was overwhelmed, and I ended up having to turn down all my dream schools. And I said, I'm just going to commute and go to Cal State Northridge, which was right down the street. So I left home, went to CSUN, filled out the financial aid forms. The school said, sorry, you don't qualify for grants. And it was because I made mistakes on the FAFSA, which will cover those, which will help a lot of business owners and families that are listening to this on what you can do legally and ethically to help you. So I made the mistake. I got in $53,000 in debt after college, adjustable loans. This is living at home, going to CSUN, trying to think it's the cheapest way.
Yeah.
And what I found out when I started trying to pay my debt back and going to these educational conferences to consolidate my loans, I learned from other educational experts that I didn't know even existed, people like me doing this now, that I could have actually gotten free money. I could have gone to my dream school, which was Duke in North Carolina. And the funny thing was, it would have been cheaper to go to a private university than going to Cal State Northridge, and I would have graduated a year sooner because there's smaller schools versus the big schools. And I was like, no, there's no way that I could have gone to a private school. So because of that experience, I ended up helping my cousins that were in school. I'm like, hey, Omid, come to my house. I can't believe what I figured out. I wouldn't have had that much debt. So I was helping my cousins and just immediate family with the stuff I learned, then they were telling their friends about me. I'm like, no, I'm in real estate. I have a real estate job. I got out of college with debt, and luckily real estate was booming in 04, 05. I got my real estate license. My aunts bought a house. My parents bought a new house, and you get the 2-3% commission. So I was at the right place at the right time. So after being in so much debt, not going to my dream school, all these adversities, getting injured, not playing pro soccer, I was like, one failure, another failure, another failure. I'm like, God, what have I done to people? And because of that, I realized that there was a bigger calling for me, which was helping kids go to college. And I ended up at some point, after about a year doing real estate, I left real estate because people were just calling me saying, hey, I heard you learned something about this financial aid system. Can you help us? And that's when I got even more passionate about what I knew. And when the results I was helping just people right away after the mistakes I made, there was just more gratification doing that than just selling a house. So that's where my calling came, and that was a turning point of my life back in 05, where I said I'm going to go into the college planning field and help people. And now 14 years into it, we've helped over 25,000 families. Wow. So that's kind of like my background, how I am where I'm at today.
Yeah. What's the ramp up for someone to do what you do? Did you just learn to, do you have to take classes? What is in there in learning how to do what you do?
I went because I'm very analytical and I'm very, very methodic with details, and I take something very complex. The way I was built, I guess I learned what I'm really good at is I can take something very, very complex and simplify it and teach it. Everybody said I could be a good teacher. Every assessment I've ever taken was I'm very patient, I'm very detailed, and I never give up, and I just keep pushing until I figure it out, like A-type, right? And I realized that the higher education system, so the Higher Reauthorization Act, is basically the government's Bible, so to speak. It's 1,200 pages of the entire education system. It's kind of like the tax code. You pull the entire IRS tax code, it's thousands and thousands of pages. It's taking that and dissecting it into simple, easy format. So I go through the higher reauthorization system. I go through the political side of getting all the data, because that's everything that the government has written about the education system. That's where I spent my time when I first got into it. Today, there's different areas in college planning. There's the financial aid part of it, which could be a field of its own. There's the educational and counseling side, which is like being a counselor and helping kids find their schools and majors and applying to college and doing the applications and the essays and all that. So that is a field of its own. And then the funding piece, the financial planning piece that's geared towards education, which is the finance side of it, is how do you pay for this and without messing up your retirement. That could somewhat fall into a financial planner side, but on the financial planning side, the problem is most advisors are retirement planners. They do investments and securities and that kind of stuff. They don't understand the college planning side of like what assets count and what assets don't count. So you can literally niche yourself as a financial planner in the education field. I do a lot of teachings. I go and teach CFPs, CPAs. I have over 300 advisors all across the country that over the past few years, people ask me, hey, can you teach me? The counselor comes to me and says, I know how to get the student in the application, but I don't understand the financials, so I can help someone get in, but they might not be able to afford it. I need to learn that piece, or can you help us with that? So I've been able to work and partner up with counselors or admissions people. I get financial aid experts coming in, they do the financial aid, but they don't do the admissions. Or I get financial planners that I've partnered with, insurance agents, financial planners, CPAs, that they come to me, attorneys like you on the divorce side. How does that play a role with education? It can save you a ton of money if which we and I have worked on some mutual clients I've given you, that it makes a big difference on how you prepare for that. So now there are different, you can literally take the industry and break it down into 3 or 4 segments. You don't have to be the expert in all. I just happened to learn it because of 14 years. I went to one part, then I had to learn the other piece and the other piece and bring it all together.
Yeah. So and kind of talking about those different pieces, you handle all of those areas, right? You don't refer out to CPAs, or you are the expert in all of those areas?
What I did was, because finance was my field, numbers and analytics and problem solving was like my thing I loved doing. What we did was we hired former admissions officers and specific counselors that have a license in admissions counseling.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of parents say, well, my school has counselors. I go, okay, what are they specifically doing to help you get in? Are they picking colleges for you? Are they helping you find your careers and your majors and what schools you can get in? Are they sitting down with you at least quarterly from 9th grade to help you stay on track? The problem, the Santa Clarita has one of the best schools, public or private. On the public side, definitely better schools than some of the other, school districts out there. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, even with that, on the academics, I think they do well. But on the counseling side, if you think about it, there's 600 to 1 ratio between a counselor and students. So the students who are not unfortunately doing well in school, that don't come to class, they have to build the attendance up because the school, their revenue is based on attendance. Mm-hmm. So if you're a bad student in school, your counselor's on your back. They're going to spend time to try to get you back into school and all of that. If you're a good student, you have to be proactive to go to the counselor and say, hey, I need this help. But how does a student know what to do next or what questions to ask or to go to the counselors for help? Yeah. So there's a huge gap between real guidance counseling to get into college versus just general counseling to take the right school courses and to show up and to stay motivated. So that's where the problem is on the school side. That's what we feel. So we have the admissions counselors that specifically help students find the right careers, the right majors, and make sure they get accepted. Yeah. So that's that piece. And then we do the financial aid because you can get into school, but if you don't get money or can't afford it, it stops there. Yeah. So that's why once we got the admissions down, I would get parents say, thank you, we got in, but how are we going to pay this $40,000 bill? Mm-hmm. Or thank you, you got me in, and you got me $10,000 in free money. I'm happy with this, with the free money and getting in, but how am I going to pay the remaining balance? Right. How am I going to pay for this? I go, well, have you talked to your advisor, your financial guy, or your CPA? They're like, yeah, but it's still, we don't have specific plans on how do we make that happen. Right. So I had to fall into this because people were asking me the shortfalls they were having through this process, and that's how I figured out you have to have an admissions piece to get in. If you don't get in, the financial aid doesn't matter. So you get in, that's pillar number 1. Pillar number 2 is we have to shrink the cost by getting grants financial aid. So no matter what your income level is, you can get free money, depends on what schools you go to. Right. So you shrink the cost. But even if you get in, you get free money, that's where the funding came in, the financial planning of it. How do we fund it? If we have a budget, we have retirement, we want to pay off our house, we have all these other obligations already, now we have to add this extra humongous college bill, not just for one child, if you have 2 or 3. Right. How do we juggle all of this? That's where the financial piece comes in, and that's when I started really researching and getting into the finances and really pushed myself and my knowledge to fit all those 3 pieces. So yes, we do all of those.
You do all of those.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned that I wanted to talk about, you talked about the kids not knowing, to go to the counselors and so forth. We knew our daughter, we used you for our college planning. Yeah, and like you said, starting in 9th grade, and you said that when we met, but we were way past that. Yeah. I mean, I think at the time, you guys were we were 3 months before we had to actually submit. Correct. And we can get it done, but this is about the last minute you can start. Yeah. But everything turned out great, of course, but it's interesting to know that you would start at 9th grade, and I think you had even said, talked about classes they should be taking to help them for that. Plus, even though we had a late start with you guys were able to help with advice, like helping the essay writing and what schools to apply for, all of that. There's no way we would ever, even if we had the time, which we don't, but that was instrumental, obviously, getting it done, plus telling her what internships to take, and I mean, it just worked out perfectly for her. And another good piece of advice that you had given us, we probably did talk when she was her first year in college, and she was going to COC, and you'd say, actually before that, you said, I would recommend that she just goes to COC if she doesn't have a defined target or idea of what she wants to do, because I believe you said, and you can correct me, that you see a lot of people going out and coming back
Yeah.
with that when they don't have a plan.
I have a call right now with a student, and this is a district attorney, top district attorney for LA. He's a client of mine. I won't give his exact name because he's very high end in that, and a very nice guy. Yeah. And his daughter just is at Reed. One's at Reed, and one's at Riverside. University of Redlands.
Okay.
So the one at Reed is a really good school in Portland, but one of the things I talk about is think about when you send your child to college, not where you can get in, but the positioning of where are they going to be happy when they get out. Like weather, culture, people, environment. People forget the whole social aspect. They just think about the education part, and they don't realize that have they lived in Portland for a year? Do they know the type of people there? And she's been there for about a year, and over Christmas they called me and said, Brian, I have some bad news. My daughter is really sick, and we found out once we spoke to her that didn't want to tell us, but she didn't want to bring the parents down, but she is unhappy where she's at. And now she's coming back home and trying to get her through rehab and just a bunch of issues that she went through physically and emotionally that we have to try to get her back stable. And now she's coming back and going to COC or one of the community colleges so that we can take one step backwards and then figure out how to get her back on track. Yeah. So I get that at least once or twice a year, that students don't plan this out correctly and they don't have someone that's going to ask them the right questions. Because anybody can follow the science of, hey, I have applications due, and parents go say, oh, I can figure this out. Let me just go fill out these applications and the deadlines. But they don't think it through, like, what are the mistakes that can happen that can cost you so much money by going to the wrong school, having your child unhappy, and then realize that it costs you $20,000, $30,000 a mistake and an extra year stuck in college now because of not having someone help you or help the child and ask them challenging questions like, why do you want to go to this school? How do you know the schools are right? Have you spent at least a week at that college during session if you're going away from California to make sure you like the people there? If we would have done some of that because they started a little bit late with us, if I would have gone through all of those details, we would have at least get her to think twice to go, is that really the right school for her? So I think planning that out is huge, and the amount of money a family would save just from the peace of mind and certainty.
Exactly. I want to kind of change gears on the questions a bit and talk about college planning in relationship to what I do which is divorce. And recommendations and ways. I know it's probably a little bit more complex, but if you can give maybe a few bullet points on what families can do if they are thinking about divorce, or even I've had people call me and say, we're working with a college planner and they told us we need to get divorced for college planning purposes. And I said, so I've done divorces where they don't have no intention of being divorced, but they are going to, on paper, get divorced for purposes of college planning. I'm assuming that the benefit was tremendous for someone to decide to do that who's been married 25 years. So if you could answer that question from that perspective, as well as when deciding on custody, if they are doing that either because they're doing it specifically to get divorced for financial aid, or they just happen to be getting divorced and they know their children will be going to college in the future, do you have any recommendations on how that should look?
I'll give you two answers. I'll give you the technical answer first. If you know your child's going to go to a Cal State, a UC school, or a state school, and you do research at those schools on how the financial aid needs to be filled out and how they assess everything, that's the most important part. Any strategy we do, whether it's a divorce thing or moving assets to get more financial aid, or adjusting income if you're a business owner and putting more away pre-tax, or writing more off so you show a lower adjusted gross income to qualify for more money. There's over 160 different strategies, but every strategy requires you to really think it through of what kind of careers, majors, and the type of schools you're going to go to first, so we know the destination, so to speak. Are we going more Cal States and state schools, or are we geared towards more private schools? Because You have the federal form, which is called the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. That uses one methodology and stuff you can do on strategies, including we'll talk about the divorce thing.
Yeah.
Then you have private schools that use something called the FAFSA still, but then they override the FAFSA with something called the CSS profile, which is the College Scholarship System Services form, which is for private schools, they use a different form to determine something called your expected family contribution on how they give money. So those two forms make a big difference, because I've had parents come to me and say, hey, Brian, I want to go through a divorce, or we went through a divorce and someone told us to do it. We actually had a family, August called me. They went through a whole divorce because a college planner said to do it. And this is a guy out of Westlake that I know mentioned this and actually worked for me. And there's, things they say that needs a little bit more clarification.
Yeah.
Told this person, go ahead and go through the divorce. Didn't realize that child is looking at USC, gets into USC, and then USC asks for the non-custodial form, because on the CSS profile, they go one step further, asking about the non-custodial. They have a non-custodial form, which means they're going to go further than that. And even if you go through divorce, they didn't give them money because they really, I think, they didn't tell me this, but they did it because they thought they can get more money. They weren't completely going through a divorce. And the school checked everything and did a full verification and realized that they're not really divorced, or it didn't make sense. So they counted both of the income again back in the process. So they spent all this money and time to go through the divorce, and it didn't help them. So we had to go back and figure out other ways to get grants, which we did, but that strategy didn't work.
So the non-custodial form is so they're not going off, say, the divorce decree or the divorce judgment that may say this parent is getting 100% custody.
Correct.
They have an additional document. What does that verification process look like? What do they do? They kind of take a deeper dive to see, are the kids really with that parent?
Yes.
Or
they'll go deeper into that. They'll ask, questions on how many hours, how many days do you spend with the mom, how many days you spend with the dad. They look at the addresses, they look at what high school you're going to, and they see, mom lives in Costa Mesa, dad lives in LA, but they're putting that the student lives with mom in Costa Mesa, and it doesn't make sense. So they figured out people who are out there screwing the system, that, like you said, they purposely go through a divorce, for example. From the ethical side, I will never ever tell someone you should do anything that's gonna take advantage of someone, a business, a school, or any of that. I'll use the system to maximize the benefit that someone should qualify for, but I will not manipulate or break the system.
Right.
That's the difference between any ethical CPA, any ethical financial person, or any industry, I think. People do come and ask me that, and I say, I cannot advise you. If you're asking me, I'm a professional, I cannot tell you, here's how you take advantage of the system. Now, that was the other part of the answer. Back to the first part of the answer. If we know we're going to a UC school and a Cal State, those are the right schools for the student. That's the only school they want to go. They want a bigger school. They don't want the smaller size school. And they're looking at, let's say, UCLA. On the FAFSA, because they only use the FAFSA, on the FAFSA it says, who does a student live with 51% of the time? So as long as we meet those rules and the student lives with 51% of the time with, let's say, the mom, and even if they verify it in the divorce decree, it says that 75% of the time they live with the mom, and it truly makes sense for them to live with the mom, then you only need to submit the financial aid forms under the mom's name. And if the mom makes the lower income, it doesn't matter if the dad makes $500,000 a year and dad is still going to help out. We don't list the dad anywhere in the picture because it's not asking for it. So that strategy would work. And yes, in that situation, even though both parents are in the picture, we have a family like that. Dad makes $480,000, mom makes $62,000, and we got 90% of the college costs at the UC school covered. Dad's paying for half of it, or paying as much of it as possible.
So what was the deciding factor on whether it's just a FAFSA application without the verification? I'm not sure I was clear. I understood that.
On FAFSA, 30% of files just go through random verification, like they'll just check everything.
So they still could fall under a verification to see if it makes sense.
Yeah, they can still look at the verification. the chances at the UC school and the Cal State, because they have so many students, that they're going to really dot their I's and really logistically think all of it through doesn't happen. They go through a system through the financials. As long as the tax return shows the student on the mom's taxes, we have the mom's income, the dad is nowhere in the picture, the student lives with the mom, which is why the student is claimed on the mom's tax return, then the story makes sense. We can submit everything under the mom, and we meet the 51% rule. We don't need to bring dad in the picture. 99% of the time it goes through and it's fine.
Okay.
That's where people take advantage of the system, where they go, oh, I've figured out, that strategy. I'm going to go through a divorce and do that. I've had people tell me that. I go, I don't care what you guys do personally. I'm not going to tell you my take on it, whether it's I think you're doing an unethical thing or whatever.
Yeah.
If you're going to work with us, these are the rules I need for me to submit everything legally and ethically.
Right.
That you live with one parent, all that. If I get all of that, I don't care what you guys do personally. I'll do the paperwork for you guys and I'll help you through the process.
Right.
But I will not, you can't consult with me, should I do that and should I, ethically do all that? Because if that was the way people would have done everything, I would have said, no, you shouldn't do it. And that's not the right thing to do, but I just don't get involved there.
Understood. And then just to the other side of that, where did that CSS form, where did that extra authorization or taking a look back to make sure it makes sense? It's not what I think you said USC, that's where they'd fall in, so that's a different college than say UCLA. I mean, I know it's a different college, but
yeah, so you can actually go to each school's website. If you know all the schools we're going to be going to, we can call the financial aid office and find out what forms and what is their financial aid process and their forms. So if they say we have a FAFSA, you have to fill out to qualify for federal aid and state aid. We have the CSS profile that would give you institutional money, merit aid, and all the other grants that we want to get. We require you to fill out the CSS profile. And then in our CSS profile, we have certain verification procedures we go through, like asset verification forms, income verification form, business asset relations, business planning forms, where if you're a business owner, they want to see your corporations and want to go deeper to see, are you putting in $150,000 in deferred comp to your business to bring your AGI lower, to see that you've even done that to try to bring your income lower, to bring your EFC down. So some schools like Harvard, Yale are Ivy Leagues. I had 2 Ivy League students that got in last year. We got them in to the schools. That school and what I have to do to structure financially, the financial aid strategies are different than the UC or other schools. So we have to find out all those forms, know what we're facing, then we plan ahead and go, okay, here are all the forms, or here's our destination, here's the roadblocks and the detour stuff that we see that can happen, that you might have issues, potholes, so to speak, on the road. How do we bypass this and know in advance that there's a pothole coming? How do we avoid that? So there are even strategies around that. So even in a non-custodial stuff, we go deeper and we show in the divorce decree and we prove that the student lives with one student. If a divorce hasn't happened yet, we go, here's how we should set up the divorce decree. I'll give you an example. I think you've asked me this before, or someone has asked me this, where who should have custody? Or in the divorce decree, it says 1 year mom is going to file under the taxes, 1 year dad, and they're going to flip-flop to get the exemption deductions from a tax standpoint. And I'll say, if we're dealing with USC, let's have the mom claim on the taxes every year.
So it matches up with...
So it matches up because we have 4 years of financial aid, so you guys don't flip-flop the taxes, and then the school comes back and says, hey, both of you are going to help with financial aid. That's a red flag. Or let's leave it all under the mom and figure out dad gets paid some other way through other investments or something, that he still gets his exemption rights through the divorce decree that they both agree on, that makes sense, knowing that there's college coming. So
that's interesting, because I'm obviously not a financial planner, and I'm not a college planner. Just handle the divorce. So when I've had these folks call us, and they obviously didn't come from you, and said, and all they told us is our college planner told us we need to get divorced, because they were just very upfront about it. And it sounds interesting, totally different take than you have, but they said we need to get divorced, so we're going to do it because they said we need to increase our financial aid. And I'll say, okay, I mean, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, that we'll take care of that. But you need to get more specific information as far as how are we going to line up the custody. And this is why I wanted to have you on so much, is to just discuss these, not because I want to give this advice, but that people can listen to this podcast and take into consideration when they have some other college planner telling them to get divorced, that it's not across the board going to happen, that they need to look at each particular school to see if that's even worth their while.
Correct. Yeah, it's in any industry, you have someone that takes a rule and pushes it either past the limit or manipulates it to try to get the sale, right? Every industry has that. There are college planners out there. There's articles out there of college planners out there going out and doing seminars and saying, hey, you should, like the divorce thing, doing that. I've heard that a lot. And obviously, those people put a bad name to other college planners. I had that when I was in the real estate industry. When I did real estate for a year, there were realtors out there that were manipulating the real estate and doing fraud in real estate. That, you know, in every industry, a consumer needs to just be very cautious who they work with, and a strategy looking at the details and making sure, is that really, will it work and will it not work?
Right.
So just a little bit of research. Obviously, working with someone that's been around for many, many years.
Right.
That's really important, because the college planning industry has increased because of the college costs being so high. People are getting into the industry or want to get into it, but they just learn something and they start going out and telling it's a one-size-fits-all. You should do this. I've had insurance agents, for example, go out and do seminars. We have a client right now that we're trying to get them out of a product that was just totally bad. He's actually lives out here in Santa Clarita. He does seminars all over Santa Clarita saying that if you put money in a life insurance policy, for example, then you're going to get more financial aid. Or if you put money in an annuity, you're going to get a lot of financial aid. This client had $150,000 in mutual funds, took it out and tied it up in a 10-year annuity with a huge surrender fee because the guy wanted to get a compensation or a huge compensation out of it.
Yeah.
And now he wants to pull the money out, and the guy told him, yeah, you're going to get a 10% return on your money and you can take your money out. We've gone through the paperwork. I go, you can't take this out. And plus, you're not going to make 10% in this annuity. An annuity is not designed as an investment vehicle. It wasn't a comparable move. Yes, it doesn't count against you for financial aid, but the schools we're looking at, they're looking at UCLA, Berkeley, and some of the state schools. The dad makes $150,000 a year. And even if they protected the asset, their EFC is like in the $30,000 range. The school cost is $35,000. You're not going to get money even if the asset is protected, because your income alone brings you to a place where you don't have a need. So this guy moved his money from a mutual fund that would have made 12 to 15% last year, put it in an annuity that only makes 2 to 3%, and it's tied up, and there's surrender fees. And now he's hired an attorney on that to try to figure out how to get out of this mess. Wow. So that example puts a bad name to other college planners, saying, hey, that means then all college planners are bad. And it has to be purposeful. You have to know if you're going to move money, it's actually going to help you. So that's just another example of that type of bad advice.
Yeah. It's so interesting when folks are getting into something to do college planning or to do their own divorce. They think they'll save some money. Because we have fees we charge, you have fees you charge. Yeah. And I'll tell you, when we used you, we were glad to give you whatever your fee was, because we didn't have the time, the resources, the know-how, and how you started off saying we're going to screw it up. That absolutely would have. We barely made dates. You guys were on top of like, hey, we have to have this done by this date and that date, and we're like, and we still were falling behind. Yeah. And you guys were on us, so we would have never gotten through the process. And as it turns out, I ended up getting rated as a disabled vet. So through California, my fees for my daughter at UCLA are covered. Most of them, not all of them.
Sure.
Had I even known that going in, I would have still used you guys, because she wouldn't be going to UCLA right now if it wasn't for you guys. She wouldn't have done the internships or the essays or whatever she had to do to get those in. And you guys are awesome. So
thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad we knew you, and you guys took care of us even though we walked in the door.
Yeah, and that's what I live for every day. It's like I tell students too. I go, I didn't know I was going to be passionate about this. It was only because I made a lot of mistakes. Then I realized that as I was helping people, it felt really good. The students loved it, and it just felt really good. Versus when I was selling a house, I would have made more money staying in real estate back then when real estate was booming. And everybody told me, you crazy leaving real estate? In the first year you made like $80,000, you paid all your debt off.
Yeah.
And this is your first year in real estate. Why would you leave real estate? And I kept getting people telling me, including family members, saying, why would you leave real estate to go into the education field, which generally is not a high-paying field?
And
but
then
I did
07, 08, and
yeah. Exactly. So I just said, I love doing this. I paid my debt off, and I want to do this. It's a passion of mine. So I always tell students, find your passion and go into something that there's a need for it. I didn't know this was going to continue, and education was going to keep getting expensive every year. If it was for the money, I should have stayed in real estate. But because of the passion and the long-term benefit, today I do what I do, and we take on more families and help more people than any competitor that I've ever had. I have competitors, I don't really call them competitors, they call me now and they want me to guide them and teach them how to run their practice now. So I have over 300 people. I do 2 to 3 times a year seminars that I can't do one-on-one, that I go and I teach them best business practices on how to run their business, what to do in your practice. Like, don't go out there telling people you should go through a divorce. Don't go selling annuities or insurance to everybody in the world. But yes, if someone makes the right fit on an annuity transfer, if it's a short-term annuity, they're going to get more money on the financial aid. Yes, move it, because they're going to get 20-30% more on financial aid than what they're going to get in the market. Yes, there's a place that you tell someone an annuity or an insurance makes sense, but here's how you explain and teach people when they should make moves or do things that's going to really help them. So I love doing that, because that's how I get into. We have 10 staff members. We help over 150 new clients a year. All of this really just happens because we have a passion. We really care about helping people. And I love the results, like that kind of story that you talk about. That we probably wouldn't be where we're at today. And I live for that every day. So
Awesome. Well, super glad to have you on. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, I just think anytime families have any question or anything they need, I love that what you're doing, because I've had many referrals from all kinds of attorneys, especially also divorce attorneys as well. But a lot of the ones that we've worked with charge all these high fees to do, divorce, because they charge by the hour. We had a divorce attorney, I won't mention a name. He was telling me that he's at 7 figures on this divorce case. That client came on board and hired me, and I sat down and looked at everything. Both of them were somewhat amicable, but I'm like, I have no idea why the divorce bill reached 7 figures, because they kept postponing it and delaying it and all that. And he never ever asked me questions the way you're asking me, that, hey, what should I do to reduce my client's fees? He didn't come and tell me, hey, what do I do to set things up that's going to help for financial aid? I brought it up to him, but he never asked me those things. So not only that family was paying 7 figures for this divorce, and then when you and I met and we started chatting what you do, I'm like, this is brilliant. You're cutting down the actual attorney fees and still getting all the paperwork done and the divorce completed. Same thing. Everything's the same. You're just not charging astronomical fees by the hour and all of that. And I know that for a fact, because we had a first mutual client that is very big in this area, which we won't mention the name, but they run a big amusement park, let's say, for example. And several people like that came to you, that the attorney bill would have been so high for a person that caliber, and the amount of money they made, and the amount she comes to me all the time. She still tells me that how much money they saved, that I was able to be almost like a mediator to help them from the financial side, because I manage both of their assets on both sides, and to say, look, you guys, the best thing you can do for your kids and for yourself is just let go of the past. You can't change that. The longer you guys have disputes, the higher your bills are going to go with an attorney. So if you could be amicable for your child's sake, for them to see that parents are good and we can have relationships, healthy relationships with mom and dad, it helps them go to college at ease, not having to worry that mom and dad are just as enemies, which then hurts them, hurts you physically and emotionally, hurts everybody you deal with, hurts your job. You have a hard time making money, you can't think, and you spend over 6-7 figures in fees to get this done. And she always tells me the work that you did for her, and me referring them to you and not having them hire an actual full-on fledged-out attorney with the amount of fees they were looking at. So
those
I
are
appreciate
those are
that
also
too.
the stories that I love to hear. And what you just said, I sing that song all day long. I can tell you story after story of clients coming to us who've been built by attorneys. And when I look at what's been done, hardly anything. You know, when you charge $400 or $500 an hour, $5,000 is 10 hours of work, and they're done. And that's not enough to get a case done. So we take people coming in who've spent $20,000, $30,000, they're out of money, and we wrap them up for $1,000 and they're done in a couple of days. It's just, I think not all attorneys are bad, but when it comes to divorce, you know, they can pry in on those emotions, and they can twist the knife, if you will. And you know, I have people that can be amicable, go to an attorney, and the next thing you know, they're fighting because attorneys are talking on their behalves, and mixed, you know, words are mixed, and the next thing you know, they're fighting each other. And it's just bizarre.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, we sat down and I said, look, if we go through this emotionally, it's going to cost a lot of money, and you can't put a price tag on it or get to a resolution. If we look at this logically, intellectually, what needs to be done, and my job is to help you get away from the emotional aspect and bring you back on track from a technical standpoint, from a logical standpoint, from an intellectual standpoint, that how do you want to split these things? Let's go through this. What's fair? If you're both truly looking to be fair, we're going to get somewhere with this. What you did, what I did, why we're in this position, you just have to get past that.
Great advice.
And I say this, your front windshield when you drive a car is bigger than your rear view mirror. So if you spend time looking at your rear view mirror all day long instead of your front windshield in your car, you're going to run into the car in front of you and get in an accident. In life, it's the same thing. If you worry about what happened in the past, you're going to keep having problems going forward.
That's right.
So we kind of went through all of that, and I get my staff tells me I should be charging more fees for family counseling that I've done. Somehow I've been involved because this is a college planning family environment. I end up tending to give these.
So you have four tenants that you're handling: the financial, the admissions, I forget the other one, and
the family counseling.
counseling.
But I just love doing that because if I can put someone in a better place than they were before they met me, I know I have good karma on my side. Our business grows, our life grows. I'm happier. All of that. So anything we can do to help your families, I think you're doing great work sharing this stuff. I mean, this kind of podcast, giving this kind of stuff for free, people pay me $4,000 or $5,000 for what we just covered today or more. People pay me more money for that guidance. We're giving this out on the podcast for free. So, and sometimes we think, you know, something free, we just don't put a price tag on it, right? I've been giving people books or info for free. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm not giving my info for free anymore. I've given that same book for $20. I made them buy it. And then when they read it, they're like, oh my God, this changed my life. Then I go, here's your $20 back. I go, I never cared about your $20. Your book does not make me money. The books and the stuff I've done, it's charity. I give it back because I love helping people. I don't make money off the books. I do it to pass the information on. But it's this thing that we have in the psychological world that when we get something for free, we don't put a price tag. We just go, it's whatever. So that's not a free podcast you're doing. This is a huge value and service you're providing for your listeners.
I think that's one thing, because I know you do seminars as well, right? For getting clients. The free information is what I've built my business on. And while it is valuable, and I do agree that, you know, to give something, I have a book as well, I give it away, I'm sure it ends up in the trash or in the back of the car or something, they don't read it because they didn't pay for it. But when my business has been built on free information, I have over 1,000 videos on divorce, 600 or so podcast episodes about divorce, and that's how my business comes in. They listen to it, they learn from it. Some people will take it away and never call me, but those that do, that reach out and need the help, that's what it's there for. And it's just what's interesting in the legal field is attorneys and other professionals in this industry, they don't want to release it. They want to keep it close to the chest, so the clients rely on them. But for me, it makes it easy to spread the word. And when they do reach out, they're going to reach out to the person that helped them first. So.
What's the abundant mindset, right? Versus a scarcity mindset.
That's exactly what it is.
You know, I was told when I first started this business, the stuff I learned at the workshops, I was telling people how to protect their home equity, and we still do. At our workshops, we actually give them how to protect their home equity. We show them what the EFC is that they never knew about.
Yeah.
We give the farm out at the workshop just because I can't help everybody in the world anyways. So if I'm going to get 5 minutes with someone or an hour with someone, I want it to be the most impactful time I've spent with them, whether I ever see them ever again. I know if that puts them on the right track, I've done my good deed. We know a certain percentage of families will come and go, we appreciate that and we want to hire you to help us, solve all the other part. It still works whether someone never comes back again and they get the info and it really helps them, or some people, they don't know what to do with it or do nothing with it. I know we have the good intentions to just give information whether they come back, and we ran our business through that. And people are like, don't do that, just give a little dangle the carrot and then make them pay for the rest. I go, no, I don't want to do that. I want to just give everything, and people who appreciate it will come and they'll enter my life for a reason. And if people are not meant to be in my life from a faith standpoint that I have, I know that faith brings the right people in my life for a reason, and faith also takes people away from my life for a reason. If we don't have congruency, then it just doesn't matter, and I just trust that hierarchy for those reasons. So that's just how we operate.
Love it. How can people get a hold of you, Brian?
collegeplanningexperts.com is the best place to go look us up. Also, for all your listeners, one thing I decided to do is we usually charge like $97 to $200 for a one-on-one to really dive into a family's info, help them, guide them, put them on the right track. For these podcast listeners, for the next few weeks, what we'll do is we'll block off some time, and we talk to my staff that if they want to get a hold of us, they can call us at 818-201-4847, or if they go to collegeplanningexperts.com. We have 3 different locations, but we service families nationwide, and we can do a one-on-one college planning analysis, see where they're at, what roadmaps and pitfalls they're going to foresee, and what to do, and put them on the right track and give them that map. That whole planning, that's an hour to 90 minutes. We usually have an investment fee that families pay. We're waiving that for all of your listeners if they want to take advantage of that, just to give extra information personally to them if they want to take advantage of that.
Love it.
So, collegeplanningexperts.com.
Thanks so much for coming on, Brian. Really, really appreciate it. This is some super valuable information.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
You've been listening to Tim Blankenship on Divorce Master Radio. Learn more at divorce661.com, where you can find hundreds of video and audio tutorials discussing the California divorce process. Need professional assistance with your divorce? Give us a call at 661-281-0266 and let the professionals handle your divorce.